You come in to the England job on the back of a disappointing home World Cup. Did you look at that as a real opportunity? I think certain people thought it was a coup to get you, maybe not your mate Clive Woodward, but lots of other people thought it. What did you think of the opportunity? What was it about England, you coming in at that point, probably at one of their lowest points for a period of time, that really attracted you to the opportunity?
Yeah, it was a funny situation. I just coached Japan,
Yep.
and I'd re-signed for Japan for another 4 years,
Yep.
and decided I couldn't do it
Why?
because I felt like I'd given everything I had for those 4 years, and I couldn't give them any more.
So did you re-sign for 4 years?
Then I cut it just before the World Cup.
Right.
I asked them to get out of it, and I signed for the Stormers in South Africa because I
Yep.
wanted to do something different. And this is probably a bit of my contrary nature, that I wanted to go to South Africa because no Australian coach has ever
Right.
won anything in South Africa.
Okay.
So I went to probably one of the best teams. Like, it'd be like Manchester United now, going to Manchester United. You know, rich history, winning but not winning now. Great city, Cape Town, obviously, so there's some advantages there. Signed for them, and then during the World Cup, I obviously watched England play because we had Steve Borthwick, who's the current England coach. He was assistant at Japan. So I watched them play, and I always thought, shit, they got some good players here.
Yeah.
But something's just not right with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't pick out what was not right with them, but I knew there was something there. And then when I got a phone call to say, are you interested in coaching them? I thought, well, I might as well have a chat. And then, got offered the job a day later, and thought it was a great opportunity because they had good players. And at the end of the day, there's the coaching, but you need to have the right cattle. You need to have good cattle to be able to win.
I mean, your tenure in England, obviously, you have the highest win percentage record, marginally over Jack Rowell. You go a year unbeaten, which is one of the only few teams in the world to do that. You lead England to their first Grand Slam in 13 years, and you take them to the World Cup final in 2019. But in the semi-final, you produce a result that is the stuff of legend in some people's minds, and there's all this backstory of you going in there with a samurai sword and cutting melons in half or whatever it was. Tell us about that. Tell us about what that was like to create that environment where the players have a stage, to coin the Jake LaMotta expression, that a ball can rage on, and that you create this temperature, this imagery of what they need to do. What was going on there?
We had that early success, and then we sort of petered out a little bit, and then I sort of re-selected the team, and we got them ready for the World Cup. We had a really good preparation, and we always knew we were going to play the All Blacks in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And the year before, we led them 15-0 at halftime and got beaten 16-15, which gave us enough clues about what we could do with them. And so, we wanted to play a big, powerful game.
Right.
But the big thing was to give the players the belief of what they could do. So I thought during the week we might have a bit of theatre. So when we were in Miyazaki, this tiny little town in the bottom of Kyushu, and I went shopping with the interpreter, and she took me to this little shop, and it was like one window, and you could only fit one person in the shop. It was so small. Anyway, it had this collection of samurai swords everywhere. So I bought this samurai sword, and it had the actual inscription and all the paperwork of when it was made. And it was about 100 years old. And it wasn't cheap, but it was sharp and it was fearsome. So I thought, the previous night I got some kiwi fruit in the room and was cutting it up, and it was, it was making a bit of a splash. So I thought, this is the way that, just to get it in their head, this is what we're going to do to them. So we got some kiwi fruit there, got the samurai swords, chopping it in half, played around a bit with it, and it just added a bit of theatre to it. And then we had the idea before the kickoff, when they're doing the haka, to create a circle around them. So the idea was to create a circle. And I said to Owen, like, this is the idea I've got, mate, but you take it away and see what you think. So Owen took it away, and they ended up coming up with the V formation, which just added to the theatre. And it was all about, right, we're after them, we're going after them. and they played like that. They were absolutely superb.
But do you look at that and think that semi-final, because of the level I got them to, it was difficult to get them to their level again when the final came around?
Well, I think that's right, and we also had before New Zealand the quarterfinal Australia, so we had to be up for that. So we had two really big games in a row, and again, when I look back, I take responsibility and not bring him down enough. Like if I had the week again,
right,
we probably just
manage their emotions.
Should have taken him right down,
Yeah.
and maybe I would have taken.
So then you could build it back up again.
Right. And I don't think I took it down enough. I thought I did. You know, you think you do, but you know, hindsight's the greatest coach of all. There was about 3 or 4 little things where we just didn't get right. And you've only got to be 1% off. And then we had a bus trip out there where, you know, logistically, England's the best team in the world. I've never met a team that's more organised. And we got that wrong. We got into heavy traffic and we got there a little bit late. Right. So there was a number of little things we didn't get right. And then South Africa are on fire. We're slightly off fire. Yeah, there's
the margin.
That's the margin, mate. Yeah. That's the margin.
When you look at, you've had 2 World Cup finals as a head coach, and you've had 2 losses. Do you think? Because I'm always a big thing about winners. I think a good fight is one you win, not one you put up. And I think there's a difference between a winner and someone that gets close. I think in football terms, Maurizio Pochettino is a great manager. I don't think he's an ultimate winner. I think Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp have that gene. With 2 World Cup finals and 2 losses, do you think you're a winner?
Yeah, because in 2003, I think we played above ourselves. Yeah, and sometimes, like 2019, we weren't quite there. But I've won enough trophies to suggest that I can win.
Yeah.
But I've missed out on 2 big ones. 2003, I thought we played above ourselves. 2019, we played below ourselves. And I'm still kicking myself. I can recall nearly every bit of things that maybe I should have got right that I didn't get right.
Well, let me repackage the question then. How would you categorise a winner? What does a winner look like in your mind? The World Cup is the pinnacle, isn't it? And there is, whether you say we got someone, it was a home final in 2003. So you would have had that, like England win the World Cup in 1966. They weren't the best team, but they responded to the environment. You don't take on England to win the 6 Nations. You take on England to win the World Cup. That's what, am I right?
Yeah.
Right. So how do you categorise a winner then? If you perceive yourself as a winner, but in 2 occasions where you've got to the pinnacle of the sport, it's there, it's in your hands, it's in the team's hands, you're there, you're in the business of winning, yet you don't win. How do you see a winner then?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question, but it's a good question. I've never really thought about it like that.
I'm not being asked so clever.
No. Yeah, and I think there's and I sometimes think about it, that there's coaches who can develop a team really well, and then that just miss that little bit at the end to get them right to win.
Yeah.
And there's coaches that are not so good at developing, but are really good at getting them right at the end, and they can have talented teams. And I think, at World Cup level, I haven't been able to get the win, but at other levels, I have. Does that make me?
I don't think it's binary. I don't think you're a loser. It's not a choice between 2 ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, but look, I reckon in the 2019 World Cup, I definitely wasn't as sharp as I could have been.
Right.
And I take responsibility for that.
How did you take the decision for England to sack you?
Oh, I think it was right, mate. In the end, I had a pretty fair go. It was always going to be a difficult job. The easiest thing for me would have been after 6 years to walk away with an impeccable record. But I wanted to try to do it. And I knew it was going to be difficult because I had to transition the side. And the longer I was in the job, the more pressure there was to win well.
with a certain style.
Yeah, I remember we you know.
But you don't care about that background noise, though, do you?
But the players do.
Right.
And you got to take that into consideration. Yeah. And the more your players get hammered media wise, you got to look after them. And they listen to it. And I think the reality is, and it's the same in football, I reckon. The more you win, the more you got to win well. It's not good enough just to win.
Yeah.
You got to win well.
What do you think to that? I mean, I think winning is winning. I'm not one of these fannies that thinks you have to. I mean, in an ideal world, if you've got the best players, you play the best way. But you've got what you've got, and if your players are capable of winning, and winning is the ultimate outcome, I mean, I don't think there's any nobility in playing with a certain style and not winning. Yeah. But you're saying what people want in this entitled society that we have is not only to win, but to win in a way that people find acceptable.
Yeah, well,
with a manner.
In 2020, we won the Six Nations and we won the Nations Cup.
Yeah,
we won both of those. So we won 2 trophies in 2020, and we got pillared, mate.
Right.
Because we played a high-kicking game, which is, in rugby, people hate to hear it, but is the most successful game. Yeah, you got
Which is the way they've just played in the most recent tournament.
Yeah, you got to kick more than the opposition. Yeah. And we were doing that brilliantly. But the players, you know, the players want to play more when they win.
Yeah.
They want to play more. And exactly the same in football.
Yeah.
You got to play better. And then your task as a coach is to remold the team to still have that toughness about it, but then be able to add the edge. And sometimes it might be just adding one X factor player. But at international level, we don't buy that player. That player's got to come through. And for me, that was Marcus Smith. You know, that was a guy I was backing that would give us that bit of X factor. And he had his moments, but he just wasn't consistent enough.
Do you think, I mean, there's an allegation that's made or an association with potentially you staying too long in posts, and you've sort of said yourself there a moment ago, no, mate, I don't think it was a problem. I don't think it was wrong for them to have taken me out, so I didn't have a problem with processing it in my mind's eye, and with retrospect, with the benefit of hindsight. Do you think there's anything in this observation? Because one of the analogies I would make is this sort of churn and burn mentality that you might have, because I relate that to the amount of coaches that you've had and the observations that people have made about the fact that you are very demanding, very expectant, have very rigid disciplines and standards that you expect from people, and that can create, to some extent, a churn and burn mentality. Do you think that's a fair observation?
Yeah.
You do?
Because I don't think it's for everyone, mate. You know, high performance is the most bizarre environment of all. And it's not for everyone. And maybe, you know, one of the things I was definitely guilty of when I was younger was being intolerant of coaches, particularly that didn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
Now, you don't tend to find that too much today.
Right.
Like the professionalism of coaches is far higher than it used to be. But I was definitely too intolerant of coaches that didn't apply themselves as much as I would have liked. But I think over the last period of time, I've become much more tolerant and better in that area.
Well, you say it yourself, don't you, in your own book? Yeah. You say, I need to work constantly on becoming less blunt in my engagement with other coaches. I can express myself too directly. If you're too blunt in today's environment, you can cause stress. I think the key sentence is in today's environment, because I'm actually with you. I can't disagree with the principle expecting people to work hard. And if they can't stand the heat, don't get in the fucking kitchen. This is what it takes. Elite sports, elite business, elite environments require people to be able to operate at a very high level of intensity and a high level of standards on a regular basis. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, no, in principle, yes.